Jay, welcome to Chicago.
Thank you. I'm glad. It's really cool being here. I don't get to come here enough.
Well, we're glad to have you. I saw this screening with a bunch of journalists, and I can confidently say I've never heard so many people laugh so hard, but then also sigh in unease in the same movie in the same theater, which I think is what you're hoping to hear.
Yeah, I think that's right. I want people obviously to empathize with some of the horrific things that the women go through. And Charles Randolph, the screenwriter, wrote it that way, that you would eventually get to that place where like, oh my God, I had no idea what that might feel like, especially what Margot goes through, with Roger Ailes. But we knew for that to matter to people, you would have to see them as human beings first. And I find people cope with horrific situations and stressful situations with a sense of irony and wit and awareness of the absurdity of the situations. And so we tried to, not only Charles wrote great scenes that got to some of that dark humor, but also to cast people who can get you there. Kate McKinnon and Margot's scenes, there's a lot of very, very funny, dark material, and there's a fair number of other absurdities and weirdnesses around that you can find amusing up front. But then you start to go, but where's this going? And it goes to a pretty dark place.
So knowing the heaviness and the factual content behind this story, did you have any reservations or hesitation taking this on as a director?
No, I've made films that take on historical situations. I think for me it's really important that it be a supremely compelling story that also happens to carry some sort of a message, be about something I care about. But it first has to just be a great story. This one was pretty easy to jump into because it's a year before the Harvey Weinstein news breaks and the Me Too movement launches, and yet these women, especially Gretchen Carlson, just decided to take on one of the most powerful men in all of media, and with very little chance of winning, and paid an incredibly high price. She never got to work in broadcasting again just because she sued Roger Ailes, but she succeeded in bringing him down. So it was such a compelling sort of David and Goliath story, that an underdog story, that I couldn't resist it.
Sure, and you've worked with some of the biggest powerhouses as a director for other films like Helen Mirren, Bryan Cranston, Barbra Streisand, Julianne Moore. I mean, even Beyonce. You've directed The Queen Bee and Goldmember. So, going now to this, these are powerhouse ladies, Charlize, Nicole, and Margot. What was different about directing these ladies compared to people you've directed before? And did you feel you needed to make sure that you kept justice to the real story?
Sure. Charlize started it with me. Charles started it with the screenplay, but he sent it to Charlize. She was really intrigued by it, but wasn't sure she should jump in. I talked with her at length about it, gave her some notes, and she asked me to direct, and we kind of jumped in together. And I knew I wouldn't be able to tell the story as a man on my own without her close collaboration. And once she jumped in, and she helped reach out to Nicole and Margot, and when we had all three of them, we're like, okay, now you're going to be in rooms against and with some of the most powerful performers of all time. Then we got John Lithgow and Connie Britton and Malcolm McDowell and Kate McKinnon and Allison Janney. It just kept, everyone just wanted to be part of it once we had the first three with such a good script. But we had to get it right, and we did feel a tremendous obligation to honor the sort of experiences that these women had to go through. Again, especially Gretchen, who just jumped out all alone, paid the ultimate price of losing her whole career to do this. For 2 weeks after Gretchen sued Roger Ailes, no one stepped forward. And she had to, sort of navigate that, and Megyn Kelly had to wonder, should I step forward? What'll be the price? She actually liked Roger Ailes, even, and had worked with him for 10 years after being harassed. So every one of them tried so hard to get it right, and did the work, did the research, and it was incredible to watch. I felt very lucky to just be in the room as they worked their magic.
It's a great film, but I have to talk about really quick other great films you've made. Austin Powers, I love that trilogy. And there's been so many rumors about a potential Austin Powers 4. What have you heard, and do you feel that people are ready for another international Man of Mystery in the 2020s era?
It's always up to Mike, and I don't know for sure when and whether that'll happen. I'm always going to root for it.
Would you be open to it?
I've said for 17 years I'd be open to it, so it's not a big news that I remain open to it. And it's just really up to Mike when he finds a version of the story he wants to get back into.
Well, good luck with that, and best wishes with Bombshell. It was such a great movie, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I really appreciate that.
And happy holidays.
Thank you. You too. Thanks. Good to be here.
Nice to
Thank
meet you.